So this isn't the best Scholar Athlete superpower, but this is one of the best Scholar Athlete superpowers. All right, so I could never do pull-ups as a kid. They used to have the President's Fitness program, and I could never do that. I do remember Bo Parker, who could do 15 pull-ups as a kid. We all remember Bo Parker. Bo Parker had amazing confidence. He was a little guy, amazing confidence, and amazing respect from all the kids at school. Most Americans cannot do a pull-up. So I want to show you what a letdown pull-up is, and almost everybody can do these. And if you do these enough, it's the same motions, and you'll go back up. So obviously, there's a pull-up bar here, and these steps can be anything. They can be a turned over bucket, it can be anything. But basically, you're going to step up on something, get up on the pull-up bar, and then you're going to let yourself down slowly, and then you're going to step up again, and you're going to let yourself down slowly. And whether you do that 10 or 20 times a day with your child, teenager, young adult, and you'll count how many you can do, and eventually you'll go back up. Then you can text each other through the day about how many you're doing. And we have families that will text us on a Friday afternoon, 2,500 pull-ups this weekend. So that means their whole family is adding to the 2,500, and our family has to match them. My daughter calls it the No Sleeves Fitness Challenge. So pull-ups is one of the 6 Scholar Athlete superpowers, and I say Scholar Athlete superpowers because Scholar Athletes are athletes, and these 6 superpowers, and they're things that you're helping your Scholar Athletes, your teenagers, your young adults with, so that they can then take them to the next level. But basically, it's exercising your mind, pull-ups, back lunges, push-ups, being completely recovered the next morning, which has everything to do with ice compression, elevating, can be cupping, can be dry needling, can be massage, but nutrition is a massive part of it, and rest is a massive part of it. So being completely recovered every morning to prevent injury, that's the best way to prevent injury. You can't guarantee you prevent injury, but if you're completely recovered and you're not sore and you're not stiff, you're not moving slower than you normally would, you're going to be less likely to be injured. The last one is competitive swimming. That's a special superpower that gives you a lung capacity beyond your peers in whatever sport it is. Obviously, competitive swimmers have a massive lung capacity, but we'll go into that, why that. But, going back to pull-ups, it is the one of the easiest ways to give confidence to a young person, and really to anybody. And if you can't do pull-ups, most of America can't, you start doing letdown pull-ups. If you do a few letdown pull-ups today and a few more tomorrow and a few more tomorrow, where you're up to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 days from now, you're doing 30 or 40 letdown pull-ups, you'll be able to do normal pull-ups. And then if you keep adding normal pull-ups every day, you'll be able to do a lot of pull-ups. And if you're doing that in a friendly competition with your Scholar Athlete where they're seeing you suffer too, then they will do pull-ups. And why are pull-ups such a great confidence builder? First of all, if you do pull-ups with your hands facing away, rather than chin-ups. Chin-ups are a little narrow on your muscle, on your skeleton. But if you do, pull-ups where you're this way, it's a little wider on your body, but it gets from your neck down through your core, and it tightens your body. It makes you stronger. It makes you more durable in really any sport. But it also gives you a better stature when you walk. It gives you great confidence. And to give you an example, I was asked by one of my daughter's soccer coaches, club soccer coaches. It was her coach, her team's coach for 11 years. That women's team, ECNL team, has the best education record, getting to the best schools. Multiple people in every Ivy League school, people in Stanford, that I recall in the last 2 decades. They were a top ECNL team. But so you sit there and say, okay, this coach called me up and said, would you stop by? There's a family that he's coaching, and it was extra coaching time, but there were 20 girls on the soccer field. Their parents were there. Would you stop by and meet this family and tell them the extra things that they should do if they really want to have an athlete in college and maybe beyond that? So I stopped by. I waited. I kind of stood back. I saw the parents do what parents do at all kinds of swimming events and soccer events, and they stand on the sidelines. They stand on the side of the pool. They wait and they watch. Some people in a swim meet will go out in time, become timers, referees, but for the most part, stand and watch. So I watched and I went up to them eventually and I introduced myself. And, oh, that was great. Your daughter's a professional soccer player and, Princeton's all-time leading scorer, men or women, and this is fantastic. And all your kids are D1 athletes. And I pretty quickly said, how come you guys are standing here watching? And they said, well, what else are we supposed to do? And I said, well, you can walk around the field, you can run around the field, but standing here watching, your kids were in school this morning, you guys were at work. You drove them, yes, because they can't drive themselves, but now you're standing here and they're exercising. I said, that kind of is the wrong message, maybe. And they kind of looked at me, and then I knew it was getting to the end of practice. I knew what the coach was going to do at the end. He was going to do sprints with the girls. So I suggested to the coach in a very loud voice that all the parents would like to join the girls in the wind sprints. I kicked off my street shoes, wearing similar to what I'm wearing now, and I lined up next to the girls. And of course the coach loved it. He knew what I was doing. And all the parents kind of reluctantly lined up, like, we're in our work clothes. And so I think there were 8 or 10 wind sprints, 30 or 50 yards, whatever it was. And the girls obviously won. They had their cleats on and they were in shape. And they were elated. They were ecstatic. They loved it. They were jumping up and down. A couple of the parents, one in particular that I was supposed to go talk to, very brilliant litigator, was claiming that he won from the parents' perspective. And of course, there was a woman there, a parent, a mother, that was a D1 field hockey player from California. And she was clearly in the best shape, and she clearly won. And I tried to explain to him very nicely that there's no way he won. And he did try very hard. I'm surprised he didn't pull a hamstring, tear a hamstring, but he didn't win. Anyway, he's a good friend now. But we went from there. Afterwards, I met his daughters, 3 daughters. I think one was 11, one was maybe 7 or 8, and one was maybe 5. And we went over to the wall. It was at a school, turf field at a school. We went over to the wall, and I asked if any of them could juggle the ball. And, the older one, the 2 older ones could do a couple juggles up in the air. I said, no, against the wall. I said, to get a great touch in soccer, if you're not the biggest and the strongest and the fastest, but if you want to become the best handling the ball, you're going to be playing in any team you want to play on, and you're going to get into college and be able to play there and maybe beyond. And so I said, no, you have to juggle against the wall. So, of course, they're 15 feet from the wall. They're kicking the ball against the wall. I said, no, 18 inches from the wall. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. You don't get to choose when you play which foot it's coming to, so you don't get to choose here. And, of course, they couldn't do it. Little tiny taps, and they had to be focused, and it takes a lot of practice. And then from there went over and said that's the superpower for soccer, which is ball handling, top of your foot, side of both, inside, outside of both feet, right foot, left foot, be able to do that. I said, probably an hour a day. You're probably going to do, 4, 5, 6,000 a day. And when you can do those in a row without dropping the ball, then you will get to play on any soccer team you want to play on. If you do these other superpowers. And then I went over and there was a jungle gym set there, and I said, now can anybody here do a pull-up? Nobody could. The dad told me how many pull-ups he used to do in college. He was a lacrosse goalie. And I said, that's great. I said, I showed them what a letdown pull-up was. So that's kind of was my first interaction with this family who wanted more for their kids. Mother's a doctor, very educated, smart girls, but they needed to understand what superpowers were and how they could help. Um, 3.5, 4 years later, the now 15-year-old can do 36 pull-ups in a row, does 200 pull-ups a day. And the 12-year-old does 502 push-ups a day. That's her superpower. She likes push-ups. She can do a lot of pull-ups, probably 29 in a row. And the little one, who's not so little anymore, but started off 3.5 years ago, crawling up the walls with a hand and a foot on each wall, scaling them right up to do pull-ups. So it's a friendly competition. They have pull-up bar inside. They have a pull-up bar outside. They have a wall in their backyard. They have a little turf section, and they're all doing incredibly well. Now, here's the tough part, certainly for the parents and the guardians. To get the girls to be engaged like that, and this happened with our 3 Division I athletes, and it's really just something. It happened with anybody. I've done it with perfect strangers before, where they're sitting working at a gym, but they can't do any pull-ups, and then you, on their break, take them over and show them some let-down pull-ups. They're working in a gym, and then you find out they did a half Ironman 5 years ago, but they haven't done any exercise since. People have all kinds of excuses they make up, and pull-ups is one of those exercises where you hate to do them. You hate to do them every single day, but anybody can, for the most part, do a let-down pull-up, and if you haven't done them for a while and you have to start with let-down pull-ups again, that's fine, because when you do them every day, when you convince yourself to do them and they take a very short period of time, you're incredibly strong, you're incredibly fit, you're incredibly confident, and it's just great for your body. So the way to get your scholar athletes to do let-down pull-ups and then do pull-ups and do them every day and get big numbers is for you to do them with them. And that also means texting each other during the day, how many let-down pull-ups, how many pull-ups are you at so far? And it also means challenging other families. This particular family will send us a text on a Saturday, Friday night and say 2,500 pull-ups, which means we have to do 2,500 pull-ups. And they have to do 2,500 pull-ups, and the whole family joins in. But if you just think about it from a soccer standpoint, you're not supposed to pull anyone's jersey, you're not supposed to pull their arm, you're not supposed to pull their shoulder, but you're always putting your elbows through, and kind of grabbing around someone and trying to get through. If you're a forward, if you're a midfielder, you're always getting in a clinch. Someone runs into you in soccer, happens all the time, and you're solid. You push someone off, they push you off, you're not going anywhere, you're not moving. The one who's 12 now started doing 502 push-ups 3 years ago a day, and you can't push her over. But she'll run right through you, and she'll run through people that are much bigger. And she's not. It's not that she's huge. She's not. She's just unbelievably strong. Her whole body is fit. So, pull-ups are easy. Let-down pull-ups are easy to do and to start. Start with 1 a day. 1 let-down pull-up. Do 2 tomorrow. You'll be doing 365 let-down pull-ups in a year. If you do 365 let-down pull-ups in a day, you can easily do 100 pull-ups in a day. So there's really no excuse, and anything. In fact, this dad, when he can't find a pull-up bar at practice and he's running around the field or walking around the field, he'll do pull-ups on a chain link fence. Now, I feel a little sorry for him. I know my daughter didn't at all, but there's a point where he's doing 201 pull-ups with the one daughter every evening, and 502 push-ups with the other daughter. So I was feeling a little bad for him. But anyway, so it's an incredible. But when you see, and I'll give you the example. So the 15-year-old is now a freshman in high school, public high school in Montgomery County, big high school. She has obviously made this varsity soccer team because she can juggle the ball, 2,000 or 3,000 times against the ball, 18 inches away without dropping it. That's an amazing touch. Incredibly fast because of back lunges, faster than anybody on her team or any other team, which we'll go into in a different video here, and demonstrate them. So she went to a football game. I don't know, if it was the first football game, but the Marine Corps was there. They're recruiting seniors, obviously, and they've got 2 pull-up bars and very strong men and women Marines there. And people are walking by, and it's very crowded, and the football players are out there, and the school has a wrestling team, and people are walking by. So she walks by. So imagine your 15-year-old daughter, freshman, going to her first big football game in high school. Um, and she walks by, and the Marines are doing, 10 pull-ups in a row. And so, people are being a little intimidated by that, and maybe a couple wrestlers came up and did some. And she said, may I try? And she doesn't look big. She was wearing clothes that weren't showing her arms or her biceps, or as my daughter says, her no sleeves. They said, sure. And I think she cracked off 20 or 25. And these Marines were just falling all over themselves. That's the most incredible. That's the most we've ever seen. So here's a freshman young woman in high school that can do more pull-ups than anybody in the high school in a row. I think she walked by 2 or 3 more times and cracked off, sets of 20 or 15. But here are the Marines, the most impressive people at that game, were impressed by this freshman. And so, incredible for her ego. But from a parent standpoint, your daughter's safe. Your daughter's safer than she would otherwise would be. And there's a great deal of respect there from everybody, from her classmates, from everyone in the school. And so pull-ups is a superpower. You can give it. You have to participate. Telling someone, asking someone, begging someone, bribing someone to do pull-ups is not going to happen. If you do pull-ups, they're going to beat you. And that's a tremendous thing. But then you don't get to stop. You keep doing them. They keep beating you every day. Every single day, your scholar athlete or athletes are going to do more pull-ups than you are going to be able to. You can keep at it, and it keeps them at it. It's a great thing. So I could never do pull-ups as a kid. I was a very high-level athlete, but I could never do pull-ups, and no one ever helped me, convinced me, gave me that superpower. Until our kids came along. Actually, it was, and I take that back. It was my cousin. My cousin, great skier, Division I skier, Ivy League school. But he was like I was. He was skinny, then one summer, he just started doing pull-ups. And I think he was maybe 16 or 17, and great tennis player. But he put on, must have been 20 pounds of muscle from just pull-ups, and that's really what convinced me, and it's true. And when my oldest, I've got 3 Division I athletes. The one with the Eagle went to American undergraduate and then American law schools. He's a lawyer. He's 31. Was the world's youngest half Ironman at 12. The world's youngest Ironman at 13. Professional triathlete. Raced all over the world. Does Ironmans and half Ironmans now. In the middle, our daughter, Princeton's all-time leading scorer, man or woman, got drafted by the Thorns, was there 5 years, Angel City in the NWSL, and now at North Carolina Courage. She has a whole brand that's no sleeves because she does so many pull-ups during the day. Wants everyone to do pull-ups. And then our youngest went to Lawrenceville, PG year, and then went to Loyola, captain of their soccer team, and now is the assistant coach, has his MBA, all help us in our assisted living businesses and real estate businesses. The youngest, at one point, he was up to 500 pull-ups a day, and everyone thought you must be lifting in the gym for hours and hours and hours and hours. And it was pull-ups and lunges and some exercises to make him unbelievably strong. And in every sport there are superpower exercises. In soccer, it's wall hits, juggling against a wall 18 inches away. And there's a couple others in soccer. Back lunges will make you faster than anybody else running. Back lunges done properly and safely. I've got a friend who just turned 40, ex-policeman, is in the solar industry, big weightlifter, and all his life, and he's now converted. He does 100 pull-ups a day. He's never been stronger. He does 100 sit-ups. He does 100 push-ups, and he was doing box jumps, and I was terrified for his knees. And you know, it's more of an ego thing. It's like, how much can you bench press? But when you do a push-up, you're lifting 75% of your weight doing a push-up, a normal push-up. But your body is fully engaged, and it's not like you're on a bench where you got the wrong technique, and you know, you're just exercising some of your muscles. So body weight exercises are you know, incredibly important. But so I said, well, you know, why don't you try back lunges? Well, what's that? And I explained it to him. I showed it to him. He did 16 back lunges, 8 per side, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. The next day, he could barely walk. Every muscle group throughout his entire legs, down throughout his foot, full of foot, were incredibly sore, incredibly tight. But he's never been in better shape. And his argument to me was, well, I stopped doing box jumps. I mean, I started doing box jumps when I stopped doing squats. You know, I said, how much were you squatting? And he said, 350 pounds. And I said, it was hurting my back. And I said, well, squatting is a very dangerous exercise. I said, it's an exercise that a lot of college coaches and college teams will use to try to build muscle fast, but it unbalances athletes, causes ACL tears, causes, you know, when you're unbalanced, you can't protect yourself as well. And I said, and I showed him how to do a back lunge. And I said, you know, was that hard to do? He said, no, but it's technically very hard to do, and your core is engaged. I said, yeah. And I said, so you just did 2 of those. I said, on that first back lunge you did, how much weight do you think that you just squatted? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, how much do you weigh? He said, I weigh 200 pounds. I said, you just squatted 400 pounds because you did a back lunge on one leg. I said, it was completely safe, and, you know, and he's like, that's incredible. So we'll get into those, but you know, there'll be a lot of information on these. Someone may ask, well, why am I doing this? Well, everything in our house and our family, 3 generations, 4 generations, is friendly competition to make sure you're exercising, nutrition's there, you're studying, you're doing what you need to do in business. So it's friendly competition. My grandfather created the modern day sport of figure skating, taught Dorothy Hamill, Dick Button, John Curry, Scotty Hamilton, 300 Olympic and world champions and their coaches and their coaches' coaches. My dad and uncle were Division I skiers, Nordic combined. My dad went on to be in the Olympics. My uncle went on to bring the Olympics to Lake Placid, New York in 1980. And then his kids, my cousins, brought the World University Games to Lake Placid just recently with a $750 million investment, I believe, from New York State. But all the cousins are athletes, you know, Division I skiers, aerialists, nieces and nephews. One niece was on the U.S. women's ski jumping team, I think, for 10 or 12 years. Now works for a large shoe company and does announcing. But, you know, Division I golfers, skiers, you know, and you know, great tennis players. If you were to come up to Lake Placid, you would get up in the morning and do a 10 or 14 mile hike up one of the 46 peaks of the Adirondacks, and then you'd come back and water ski, and then you'd play tennis and probably pickleball these days, and then you'd have dinner and play mind games with a whole lot of interesting people, and then you'd play ping pong. And when you collapsed, you would get up the next morning rested to do it again. But you know, it's you want to surround yourself with people that are, you know, exercising their minds and exercising their superpowers and giving back and doing, you know, really great things. And there are just a lot of things you don't need to participate in and are bad examples. You want to have those positive examples. So it's giving back. All 3 of our adult children mentor people, online mentoring, text mentoring, but you know, kind of said they all 3 should do some sort of a podcast, some sort of online to help not just, you know, tens and hundreds, but, you know, 10,000s of people. So that's really, you know, I said, okay, well, Dad will do it, and you'll tell me how bad this is and how corny it is, and then you guys can do a better job. So that's really the rationale behind it, but I'll go through. There's a lot of things, and if people want to comment and ask about any sport, My daughter made a 13-year-old pitcher, an incredible pitcher, and it's not because she knew how to pitch, but Nolan Ryan knows how to pitch, and through all changes of his body type through his career, was basically injury-free, and it's simple stuff. A lot of this stuff is physics, um, and pretty easy to understand. And once you understand in kind of each sport the things to spend the extra time, and you're talking about a couple hours a day of working on your superpowers, and then specifically your superpowers. And these aren't stressful. They don't, you go to school, you practice and you train. A lot of these superpowers are things that are don't stress out your body more. But they train your body, and they do. They absolutely give you superpowers. And so you show up and you're not the best player and you don't have the best touch, and all of a sudden next year you are one of the best players and you have the absolute best touch. When a football player who wins the Heisman and goes number one in the draft, when his dad at 9 years old threw 100 passes back and forth to him and wore out a pair of gloves every week and did that for 9 years, no matter what, rain or shine, sick or well, you wonder why that young man is an incredible football passer and quarterback, and just an incredible person. So, every great athlete has somebody who has helped them with their superpowers, but there's not really a source out there. And again, when you look at every pitcher who's out there pitching, every pitcher can be dramatically better in the next 4, 5, 6 months, and they're not being told that. And if, as my daughter told me, if you look at all of the films on Nolan Ryan, only 2 mention his superpower. One, Nolan talks about it, and one, a longtime coach talks about it. Otherwise, everybody talks about everything else and all these other techniques. When you get down to the actual mechanics of it and the actual gravity of it, the physical properties of gravity, and it's basic and it's simple. But anyway, so I'll go first through the other superpowers again, starting with exercising your mind and different things to do that. The fact that a normal 10 to 12 year career of a scholar athlete, of taking them to games, taking them to practices, and just traveling, you spend an extra year in a vehicle, a car, planes, buses, trains, with your scholar athlete. 2 hours a day, 7 days a week between practice and games, 10 to 12 years, that's 8,760 extra hours. That's an extra year of hours, and you have a great time to connect, and a great time to exercise their brains and have them exercise your brain, and their friends' brains. And so we'll go into a lot of those things in some additional videos for you all. Thank you.